Alright guys, so I did some updates here to this cooler, to this cold plunge hot tub, and I'll kind of show you guys real quick. Oh, this is open, there we go. So I ended up putting a temperature probe here, as you can see. I didn't have one here at all previously. I relied entirely on this temperature probe right here, this inline probe, and it wasn't giving me accurate readings because comes right after the chiller, and it would be way too cold. Right after the chiller, it would show that it's pretty cold, but then of course when you got into the tub, it'd still be warm because it hasn't cooled down fully, because this is coming right after. So I wasn't able to get a proper reading. Furthermore, when I turn the heater on, this comes after the heater as well. So I had the chiller off and I turned the heater on, then it would show that this is way hot, and of course the cooler would not emulate the temperature that this area here was reading. So the big body of water needed to be warmed up, and it takes a lot more time to warm up. So I ended up putting one kind of just right here. It could be adjusted. I can put it in the center or the further right hand corner over there. But so far it's been giving me a pretty good reading here, and I'll go into more detail later on into why I did this and kind of the code. We'll walk through the code a little bit to understand really what this is what benefit this is going to serve, and also what findings I kind of experienced along the way. We're going to try and make this a temperature right between cold plunge and hot tub, so kind of like a summertime poolside temperature, and kind of show you how to do that. So this bit here is going to be on the remote PLC, so it's going to be on your phone, on the app, so that you can actually control it from your phone and just set the temperature, and it will turn on the heater to get to the temperatures that we set in between these two, so 78 and probably 85, and it'll stay within that range, and it'll only turn on the heater when it drops below 78. So what we'll do here is I'm just copying, going down, and then pasting. And then here we're gonna control, I think it's control C up. Okay, so control C, and then just control, and then you move the arrow keys left and then go up one, and it adds a rung to the right and then adds a ladder rung going up as well. So we want this split between, and the reason why, so I need to change this bit to C5. And the reason why we want this to split in between is because we manually start it. The temperature, the general temperature, which is that probe that I showed you guys earlier, that's going to be in the center of the tub, or of the cooler. That probe is the actual temperature of what you're going to experience when you get in. So it's got to be below 78 for all this to turn on. We don't want this to turn on at all when it's above 78. Because remember, this is summertime, so we're assuming this process is only going to be run in the summer. We're only going to manually start this process in the summertime. So it would have been a cooler, right? I'm not going to have the chiller on in the wintertime because the outside air is going to cool it down already. Now there could be a case in which we just did, heating. We heated it up to a hot tub in the wintertime, and then I wanted to, for some reason, get into a cold plunge, within a short time afterwards. Then yeah, there is some exceptions there, but that's why this is a manual start, so that we can think about what we're doing before we press it. This isn't autonomously running as of now. We got to initiate it manually. So below 78, it's got to turn on, and then over here it's going to be it's going to shut off 85. So what's going to happen is this run's going to turn on. It's going to be below 78, so that's going to be true. It's not going to be 85, so that's going to be true. And then this poolside bit is going to turn on, which in return is going to latch in C5 right here, which they're both referencing the same bit. So that's going to latch in, and then now it's going to dodge the general temp, the less than general temp. So what that's going to do is this is going to be constantly be on, and it's just going to be heating up. So I'm going to actually attach C5 bit to a heater. To our heater output rung, and that will actually turn on the heater, but this is just like a control run. And so what that will do is it'll turn on the heater all the way till it reaches 85. Once it reaches 85, then it's going to unlatch this bit. This will still be on because we're going to have this manual button to be like a toggle button. So it'll unlatch this rung down here, which will then only turn the heater back on. Remember, it's 85 degrees right now. It'll only turn the heater back on once it goes below 78, right? Because then that means this rung right here has to be true for the heater to turn back on. Then it'll do the whole process again, latching and so on and so forth. So it'll be always between 78 and 85. And I found this to be really helpful so that you don't have a lot of flicker from when the heater is on, off, on, off, on, off when you're just 2-degree difference, right? You have to have a good, a little over 5-degree threshold difference to make this work. So after we get that, we want C5 to turn on the heater, and as you can see, the Y values, Y4, that is the actual output that turns on the heater. So this goes to the output contactor inside the electrical box that actually turns on the heater. So what we have here, we have a process that does prevent freeze. That's one cycle, like autonomous process, and then there's maintain hot tub heat. That's a manual starting process. So that's if we want to keep the hot tub. We want it to go to hot tub, basically. We want it to stay at a hot tub temperature. So what I'll do here is I'll right click and then I'll insert row after, Control Z. Let's go here, insert row after. There we go. And then I'm just going to copy, go down one, and paste like that, and then Control up, as you saw there. So we're making that connection there. And then this right here is going to be the C5. So now we have another process. So these are basically everything. These are all different separate cyclic processes or loops that happen that can turn on the heater. And then up here, these are values that, despite the sub-processes running, these values will prevent, these are like the master master locking mechanisms that prevent the heater from turning on no matter what. So these are all sub-processes that can run, and this prevents freeze. So in other words, if the water goes below 40 some degrees, the temperature, then this will automatically kick on. But there are certain conditions that have to be true in order for the heater to be on. So that means chiller cannot be on, pump has to be on, right? And then the temp cannot be over, cannot be 120 or over. So that means that, yeah, so that's basically why you can just keep adding different sub-processes here. And we added our sub-process, which is poolside on. And this sub-process will turn on the heater, and then it'll maintain it within that range that we mentioned, 78 and 85. Now the last step is to make sure that we put C1, manual pool start. We need that on our app. So we go here and I go to the control, this control list. And in the control list, I'm going to add C1 here. And that means the C1 manual poolside start. So this will allow us to operate this from our phone. And that's all I need to do there. And then we can write this in and we can test it out and see what it does. But yeah, that's pretty much all. So yeah, hope you guys found this useful.